is everywhere, right? They're accumulating subscribers by any means necessary, spending billions of dollars doing it. Well, now Disney Plus is scaling back. Why? Well, because they were scaling too fast. They were growing too fast. So this is not rocket science. This is something that happens a lot in business, where companies try to move too fast. You try to become everything to everybody. You dilute your brand or whatever, or you scale too quickly and you overspend your money. Next thing you know, you're trying to scale back or you're losing. So Dr. King was losing in that movement because he tried to scale up for everybody. So here he says it took away the issues of their exceptionality in society. The unique historical experiences of Black Americans became synonymous with minorities, multiculturalism, diversity, people of color, and poor people. These off-course issues confuse racial issues with class issues. So he didn't understand the battle of race versus the battle over class. And when he started trying to fight the class battle, and blending it with the racial battle, it ended up creating something where he was basically in a battle that he could not win. And as a result of that, some would argue that the civil rights movement didn't actually move the Black community forward. It achieved the goal of integration for sure, right? You're much more integrated into society than you were before. But again, as Dr. King started learning, we were integrated into that burning house. And as a result of being integrated into the burning house, next thing you know, 40 years later, we got Sexy Red rapping to us about why every 12-year-old needs to get pregnant and not use condoms and get high on drugs or whatever she's rapping about, right? So she didn't say 12-year-olds should get pregnant, but she's pretty ridiculous. And she's an example of kind of like the chaos in the culture right now. So let's see here. So it says Americans, in case you don't know who Sexy Red is, don't just ignore it. It's she's this rapper. It's kind of if you ever want a good laugh, just look her up. All right. So anyway, let's see. The unique historical experiences of Black Americans became synonymous with minorities, multiculturalism, diversity, people of color, and poor people. These off-course issues confuse racial issues with class issues. Dr. King's redirection of the nation's attention to poor people and other oppressed people of the world put Black Americans on the backseat of the bus and voluntarily reversed the course of Black self-interest to the days when they were denied the right to even have a group self-interest. So not only was the goal not achieved of helping Black people to move forward, according to Dr. Anderson, it actually sent us backward, he's saying. So it got to the point, and you think about this, right? Has anybody ever, give me a yes or no if you've noticed this, where there are people that really get upset about anything that is solely for the advancement of Black people. I can tell you how many people get offended when I say, yeah, this is the home for intelligent Black people. And they assume I'm not inviting them. I'm like, no, it's not that you're not invited. I just want you to know, like we're here for the benefit of people that are Black first. Like, we don't hate you. We're not going to condemn you unless you are disruptive. If you're disruptive, then I have to block you and put you out of here. But for the most part, we're just here to help ourselves, and there's nothing wrong with that. And in fact, it's gotten to the point where politicians get punished for doing things that are Black first. Black politicians, Dr. Anderson talked about that there's codes of conduct where Black politicians are pretty much implicitly and explicitly warned that if you do things that are specifically for Black people, because we've all committed to this idea of complete total integration in a colorblind society, we're going to start calling you a racist. That's why my Facebook page gets taken down, because they think I'm a racist because I'm talking about Black people, and I'm doing it for the exact opposite reason. But it doesn't matter. I can't explain that to them, so I don't try to. Let's see here. Let's see. He says Dr. King's actions. So he and the movement became broadly focused on everyone, all people, and everything except Black rights. Dr. King's actions absolved whites of any need to fulfill the requirement of the 13th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to, quote, lift the burden and incidences of slavery from the shoulders of Black people. So the 13th Amendment to the Constitution said that we're supposed to lift the burdens and incidences of slavery from the shoulders of Black people. Do you think, give me a yes or no, do you think that the burdens and incidences of slavery have been lifted off your shoulders? Do you feel that slavery has been cleaned up, that the effects of slavery are just gone, that there's no slavery to be seen here, everything's good, everything's wonderful here now? Is that where we are? Where are we as a people? What do you guys think? The answer is obviously no. And so what Dr. Anderson says in his book, which is hold on, give me a second, guys. I hope I didn't lose you. There we go. Sorry. Okay, you guys can still see me, right? All right. So let me hit this button. Okay, there we go. All right. So in his book, The Black History Reader, which you can find at powernomics.com, that's what he says. Last paragraph of this section, he says, the nation's attention continues to shift more comfortably toward class and gender groups, leaving the legacies of slavery and Jim Crow segregation proportionally unchanged between whites and blacks. So if I show you charts of quality of life when it comes to education, when it comes to health, when it comes to economics, you will find that black quality of life has not improved at all. Right. And so anybody who's concerned about this, anybody who truly represents your interests should be able to look at that chart and say, okay, this is a problem. Something needs to be fixed. But why is it that a black politician that represents that area can look at that disparity and not say a word, not feel obligated on any level to address the issue? Like literally say, oh, well, that's par for the course. Well, it's because that's what we're used to. We're used to the idea of black people consistently being an underclass. And if we were ever in a position where we weren't the underclass, people would probably feel like something was wrong, or the only way we won't be an underclass anymore is if we decide we're not going to be an underclass. I don't think there's anybody that I can think of in Washington that's really going to spend the political capital necessary to keep black people from being an underclass. Let's see here. So the nation's attention continues to shift more comfortably toward class and gender groups, leaving the legacies of slavery and Jim Crow segregation proportionally unchanged between whites and blacks. The concept of colorblindedness did indeed take the focus off black rights. Whether that is a positive or negative depends on the perch on which you sit. So what Dr. Anderson seems to be saying here, generally speaking, I want to make this clear, is I don't think that he dislikes Martin Luther King. I think that, I don't know, I can't speak for him, but I'm going to say I don't dislike Martin Luther King. I think Dr. King was trying to do the right thing. I studied his life. He was a great man. He did a lot of amazing things. He was very smart. And what I would say is that Dr. King was, to me, a milder version of Malcolm Little, or when he was Detroit Red, Malcolm X, before he became Malcolm X. He was a milder version of that. It was misdirected energy. So the danger of Detroit Red was that you took the genius of a Malcolm X and you put him inside the mind of a criminal, which means that all the things that he did when he was a great man was being used to harm other people for a very long time, until somebody redirected the gun. They turned the gun away, right? If I have a gun and I point it at my mother's face, that's a threat. But if I point it at my mother's enemy or someone that's trying to harm my mother, then everything shifts, right? Same gun, different context, right? So that's what Detroit Red represents in my mind. Martin Luther King is not quite an example of a Detroit Red scenario because he wasn't doing, terrible debaucherous things to people. But what he was like a gun that was pointed sort of a little bit in the wrong direction. And also, instead of hitting the mark, he was missing the target, right? So he's like a guy that has a really powerful gun and he's aiming it, kind of spraying it around and missing the bullseye. He's not hitting the bullseye. Right. So effectively, what happened then is that power of that gun gets diluted because of not just he wasn't uneducated, he was miseducated, in my view. Right. And this happens with millions and millions of our people. Go online and look at how many people truly believe that they are pro-black, truly believe they're 100% pro-black. But everything that they say is incredibly inconsequential in terms of benefiting the black community like that. But they will be radical black. They're the first ones pro-black this. But when they think about blackness, they're thinking blackness means holding up a black fist. It means I watch all the black shows on TV. It means that I use certain rhetoric when I go to the barbecue at Auntie's house. Right? If you ask them to describe blackness, they'll describe blackness with all these sort of really white constructed ideologies that really came off of TV. Think about this. Think about how much influence Hollywood has in defining what blackness looks like, right? They tell you they've literally turned us into like the controlled opposition because they tell us like, this is what black people do. This is how black people behave. Where do you think black men picked up the whole pimp culture from? Were they glorifying the pimping culture? And then the hip hop culture was an extension of the pimping culture. Let me explain. My father talked about that. He said that when the movie The Mac came out of Hollywood, made by a black man, but still came out of Hollywood. Without that money, this is where I come in as a money guy, right? This is where I want to bring it full circle for y'all so I understand why I'm bogarting my way into this conversation, is because without the money, you can't have the distribution. You can't. I was in Hollywood last week training on how production, distribution, and monetization works on the creation of media, whether you're talking about a speaker giving a lecture, an author writing a book, somebody making a movie, or a rapper making a song. That's how it works. So without the money, you don't see the Mac is not seen in, 10,000 theaters all across America. So what happened? Well, when the Mac comes out and the Mac becomes a hit movie out of Hollywood, funded by Hollywood, all the young black men in the 1970s start glorifying the pimp. Do you understand what I'm saying? Anybody remember that? Right? There's pictures of my daddy at 22 years old that I could show you of him wearing a big old hat with a big afro, with a big long fur coat, because everybody thought the pimping culture was cool. Well, that's an extension into what happened to hip hop. The Superfly, there we go, Superfly. Yo, bitch chose me, right? Right, all that stuff, right? All that stuff, right? So then you fast forward 20 something years later, you get Snoop Dogg and other rappers talking about, we don't love them hoes, right? Like you don't love your women anymore now, right? So you're looking kind of ridiculous. You're looking kind of pathetic. You're looking kind of crazy. You're not looking like a community, because no community hates its women more than we do, which is absolutely insane, sick, just chaotic, right? And who does Snoop Dogg? Snoop Dogg shows up to the VMA Awards. I'm not making fun of Snoop Dogg. I'm not attacking him. This is not an attack. I have to be careful because I know Ice Cube and people like that, and I'm 1 degree of separation away from some of these people, and I don't want them to think I'm attacking them because I think they understand where I'm coming from. So I want to make this clear. But Snoop shows up to the VMAs. He's in his 20s, so he's still young. He's still heavily influenced by the culture. He shows up to the VMAs with 2 women on a leash. They were crawling like dogs, and he had them on a leash. And next to him is Bishop Magic Don Juan. Anybody remember him? Anybody ever seen Bishop Magic Don Juan? He was a really famous pimp who wore lime green clothes, and he always had a big green pimp cup. I kid you not. Let me see if I can find the picture. I just gotta, since I had no idea this conversation was going to go in this direction, but since we're talking about this and we're talking about the influence of culture on Black people and how media can shape how we view ourselves and how they tell us what it means to be Black, I think it's important to go full circle on this discussion so we can understand what's really happening here and how the miseducation of Black people can occur. I hope Frances Cress Welsing from heaven agrees with what I'm doing here. All right, ashe to her. All right, so here's some pictures of Snoop with Bishop Magic Don Juan. For a while, he would go places with him everywhere. He would go everywhere with him, right? And again, this is not me attacking Snoop Dogg, because I think Snoop tries. He's really trying. He's trying to grow. He's older. He's an older man now. This is when he was much younger. But this was a reflection. This was a direct descendant of the pimp culture, which spills into the hip hop culture, which is then encouraging Black men to hate Black women, which makes us think that being Black sort of creates all these sort of anti-family ideas, which really are incredibly anti-Black, because without family, without that woman, without that Black woman, your DNA does not survive to the next generation. You're dead at that point. You don't exist without the Black woman. So I think it's really important for us to understand how they drill to the core of that which was sacred in our community in order to make sure that they accurately put the missile on our head and destroy us. So what I'm saying to you is that when you're talking about how these movements work, how culture is shaped and all these other things, I think you have to be really careful, because there are people in these coalitions that will literally tell us how to be Black, and then we end up becoming these misguided weapons. That's what Dr. King was. Dr. King was a great man who needed a great mentor who was going to really help him focus the weapon, focus the gun, right? So this is why, again, at 52, he died at 39. If I was sitting down talking to him, I'd say, look, brother, here's what you need to do. Let's sort of, trim the fat. Let's focus on the core issues. Let's go back to Blackness. That's where we live. That's where we're going to stay. Let's get you with Malcolm so y'all can understand that you have more in common than you don't. The best thing about Dr. King that I love, this is what I loved about him, is that even when others criticized him, he did not criticize them back. Anybody notice that? He did not say negative things about them. He kept focused on his mission. So to that extent, he deserves a tremendous amount of credit for that. He wasn't into the chatty patty. He wasn't into the back and forth. He wasn't into the crabs in the barrel. So in that regard, he did what they call self-actualization. He was operating on a higher frequency than some of his quote unquote competitors, right? But at the same time, I think that a little more unity would have been beneficial, and I think a little more focus would have been beneficial. Because remember, all these leaders, when you're talking about these great men and great women that lived before you, you can't just put them on a pedestal and make them untouchable. You have to analyze. You got to critique. I look at Malcolm Malcolm X and I say, gosh, why did you have to spend so much time referencing your disagreement with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad? I don't understand that. I don't understand why you had to continuously and repetitively talk about how you felt when you left the nation, because you were inviting your enemies to participate in the destruction of the Nation of Islam and the destruction of ultimately you. You were creating your own demise. You thought it was between you and him, but you got to understand that when you fight with your brother in public, that your brother's enemies are watching too. So enemies jumped in and said, oh, look, Malcolm hates Elijah Muhammad. Let's jump in and let's instigate, and then we can destroy them both. And so if I were talking to Malcolm, if I were his mentor, Malcolm was younger than me when he died too, I'd say, come on, man. Okay, you made your point. You're not happy with the nation. You've moved on. I want you to move on. I want you to do your best work, because there are people that love both of you. They really are. But this whole like repetitively talking about this issue, that's going to be a problem for you, because whether you agree or not, there are people that love the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, and they're not going to be talked out of that, because they've decided that the good outweighs the bad, and you got to respect that. So instead of repeating over and over to mainstream media, your issues with this man, which I believe should have been kept as private as possible. I really do. I love Malcolm. Malcolm's one of my favorite people of all time, because I love Farrakhan. I've sat with Farrakhan for many hours, and I love the minister. But I know about the disagreement. We all do. A lot of us do. I don't think we have to pretend like it didn't happen, but I think it was not handled in a way that is beneficial to the movement. I think that Malcolm, unfortunately, I think he would have lived a long life had he approached things a little bit different. Not to say that the nation took him out or anything like that. I think you could debate that. You could talk about that as much as you want. But I think at the end of the day, when you're talking about this issue of unity, it links back to the economics. It links back to our ability to get things done. When you talk about Dr. King, the question becomes, was Dr. King efficient in terms of how he pursued his goal? I don't think he was efficient. I think he was inefficient. I think Malcolm Little or Detroit Red was destructive. Martin Luther King was inefficient. And I think that that the inefficiency was something that ended up harming him. Now you don't have to agree with me. That's totally fine. But also remember this. One thing I'll say to you, and I can't say more about this, but I know people who knew Malcolm. I know people who knew a lot of the players that were involved in this situation. I talked to some OGs about what was really going on at that time. The stories were really fascinating, but again, out of respect for what happened, then some things I simply cannot repeat, but I can tell you that I think it was handled incorrectly. I think all of it was handled incorrectly, right? So again, that's my 2 cents. That's what I believe. And I know everybody isn't going to agree. That's fine. But I'm going to tell you the bottom line. I think the thing we're learning from Dr. Anderson today right now is pick your spot, pick the thing that matters to you. Based on your resources, maybe you could pick a broader territory. Maybe if you have fewer resources, you pick a smaller, more narrow territory, but hold that down, liberate that space first, and then you can go save the world. Don't try to save everybody. It's like if I have kids, I got to save my kids first before I start saving all the kids in the neighborhood, because if I don't, then my kids will suffer while I'm out helping everybody else. The same thing happens to your community. When you're off working for white folks, or you're off saving everybody else and helping everybody else's issues and backing up this group, that group, and the other group, well, then you're going to find that when you get back home, there's nothing there, because you abandon the things that matter to you. Things that grow, things that become strong must be poured into. They must be fed. Just like a newborn baby is weak when it's little, but it grows into something strong because the mother sits there and feeds it every day, and the father protects it every day, and the father helps to feed and protect as well, just like the mother does. That's what allows the baby to grow. So when you're talking about businesses, you're talking about movements, you're talking about your own mind, soul, and body, you're talking about your own family, the things that matter to you, every single day, commit yourself to pouring into those things a little bit every day. And I guarantee you those things will be protected. Those things will grow just like a garden. Thank you, Master Joe Brown. That's 100% true. Just like a garden. Or when I talk to guys about owning our own sports league, I say, look at the NFL. The NFL's full of all these multi-billion-dollar teams, but there was a time where these teams were worth absolutely nothing. You could buy the Chicago Bears for $50, but there was somebody who decided that this was my little territory, this little crappy sports league that nobody cares about. That's what I'm going to pour into, and I'm going to pour into this until the day I die, and I'm going to make it into something that eventually other what people will notice, and eventually it will have some economic value. When Silicon Valley created 1/3 of the world's wealth, I think last year or something like that, or something close to that. Well, when Silicon Valley was first created, it was a bunch of worthless land full of orange groves where nobody would put a business back there. Nobody put a business back there because that territory is completely worthless. But there was a group of engineers who decided that they were going to pour their energy into building these businesses in Silicon Valley. They put it right next to Stanford so they could get the best talent. Next thing you know, a generation later, Silicon Valley is one of the most economically powerful spaces on the planet. So what are you right now today pouring into every day that in a generation is going to become something that is powerful and broad and vast and economically beneficial to lots of people? That question is answered by you. I know we have big people doing bigger things. We have Ice Cube doing the big three. I see people mentioning the big three, and I love Cube. Cube is my friend, and I respect the big three, but there's also stuff what is your big three? What is your big three? I want to know what your big three is. I love Cube. I do. I've talked to him many, many times. He's a great guy, and I love and respect everything he's doing, but I want to know what you're doing. I want to know what you're doing, right? Because I think the celebrity worship sets us back. Don't put people on a pedestal and sit back and watch what they do. Start with what you do. What is your kids might be your big three. Little Tyrone and Joey and Cindy, that's your big three. Pour into your big three as much as you expect him to pour into his big three. And then we all have our own big three. That big three, your big three, is more powerful and more meaningful for you than his big three. Okay. So this is another thing that I think we have to be cautious about is these false models of leadership. Not false. I'm not gonna say false because I like Ice Cube, but this leadership style where we sort of sit back and we're waiting for Superman. I ain't waiting for Superman. There is no Superman. Please don't make me a Superman. I'm an advisor. I'm just a person. Maybe I can bring the Superman out of you. We don't need a black leader anymore. We don't need any more black leaders. We need everybody to be leading. We need everybody to be thinking, everybody to take the space that you're in and operate strongly within that space. Because if we all commit to that, I know that we can hold it down. We can win. We can elevate. We can be great. Okay, that's why I'm having this conversation with you right now. But I'm going to go and run with my wife. I need to go because I need to get some exercise, guys. I hope this conversation was beneficial to you. I hope you've enjoyed this discussion. We're going to meet again next Wednesday night at 8:30. This book club is free to the entire community. As a kind of a thank you from the Black Business School, or a gift to those of you that want to learn. And if you want to join us on our social media platform, it's called Blag Enough. You can go to blagenough.com. I'm going to spell that, write it down if you want to join. Remember, everybody's not going to get let in. You have to answer questions. And if we feel like you are a person that's built for the community, we'll bring you in. But the key idea is it is a space of peace and prosperity and productivity. We have love for each other. We believe in family, all these things, right? So if you're there to just, do silly stuff, then that's not the place for you. But for those of you that like spaces like that, feel free to go to Blag Enough. I'm going to spell it for you. Write it down. It's BLAGGENUF. 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 So if you're Black enough, you can join us at Blag Enough. Also, the All Black National Convention happens October 20th in Atlanta. If you'd like to learn more, you can just visit allblacknationalconvention.com. That's allblacknationalconvention.com. I'm super excited about the A, B, and C this year. We're going to have a gathering of those of you that are in the Prime program. And also, I'm going to try to do something with everybody that's in the book club. We'll figure something out. We'll at the very least do some book club stuff inside the inside Blag Enough, right? So I'll have some sort of space for book club members and maybe do some meetings there. And this is some footage from the previous conventions. It's a lot of fun, but it's also a great place to learn, a great place to connect. So if you want to learn, connect, and have a really good time, the All Black National Convention is for you. And anybody who's ever been there, if you're in the chat, say something about your experience there, because it is just an amazing experience. And we've been doing this for, I think this is year 9 or year 8. I think we started in 2016. Anyway, we're going to be in Atlanta this year, and you see we have a ton of speakers, and also the Black Doctoral Network is going to be there, which is pretty awesome. And we're going to have therapists there. We're going to have medical doctors there. We're going to have crypto experts there, business experts. The CEO of the Air Jordan brand, Larry Miller, was there last year. Michael V. Roberts, a billionaire, he was there last year. So we have extraordinary people like that, but we also have a lot of community activists, parents, husbands, fathers, good people, strong people, young people. A lot of college students came through because they're the leaders for the next generation. Real estate experts like Julian Gordon. You can see we have people like Ash Cash and Brittany Ramsey and Dr. Chike Akua. And these are a lot of the speakers that are coming in. Dr. Mary Stoddard. I'm going to tell you about Mary Stoddard really quick. Mary Stoddard is these are the heroes that you don't hear about. These are the people that you need to hear about before you start hearing about some of these crazy rappers and all that. Dr. Mary Stoddard was raised on a plantation. She literally used to pick cotton as a baby. Her and her 16 siblings used to pick cotton. And her parents had this thing where they said, we want you to all go to college. And the way they did it was they did a each one teach one kind of thing. So the first person who went to college was responsible for helping them get the money to bring the second one, who was responsible for helping them get the money to bring the third one, who was responsible for helping them get the money to bring the fourth one. And they worked together. They pulled each other up the ladder, right? One by one, worked together as a family of sharecroppers to get all the kids through school. And as a result, their sharecropping parents had 17 children that all graduated from college. 17 children. That's more impressive than I know. That's more impressive than any dance I've ever seen Beyonce do. And she's super talented. Her and Blue Ivy are great, but they never pulled off something like this. I've never seen an actor or rapper or anybody do anything as impressive as what Dr. Stoddard did. And then to finish it off, Dr. Stoddard marries a Black man named Dr. Marcus Stoddard, who Dr. Marcus Stoddard is one of the world's leading cardiologists on the planet. And Mary gets a law degree and a PhD, and she actually crossed the stage the day after she gave birth. She gave birth and drove 70 miles. This is that strong. You talk about that strong Black woman energy. Like I don't think that's an insult. I think that's impressive. The strong Black women don't intimidate me. I love y'all for that. And so she literally gets up off the operating table or whatever, out of the hospital bed, and drives 70 miles to walk across the stage. And last but not least, I ain't done. Mary had 5 children with her husband, Dr. Marcus Stoddard. 5 children. All 5 of those kids are doctors. All 5 of those kids are either PhDs or medical doctors. And I'm not talking about these, these kind of sort of PhDs. I'm not talking about like they went to some school where you get your doctorate over the summer. No, I'm talking about hardcore research-based heavy-duty institutions where the degree takes 5 years in order to obtain that. That's the kind of people that you have in your community. These are the kinds of leaders that we have. These are if somebody like her was leading the Black community, would nobody be able to take you down? Nobody. My Dr. Stoddard, the reason we know her is because she helped my sister get through medical school. My sister is a pathologist right now. Dr. Stoddard was instrumental in that. So these are the kinds of people that are there. And you see that there's so many other people that are just as fascinating. And you can actually get a discount on your ticket if you still want to get one. And also the hotel rooms, the discounted hotel rooms are available. And I wish I could sit and tell you about some of the other people. Dr. Maurice Green is the head of the Black Doctoral Network, which is the largest organization on the planet of Black PhDs. Literally, they're in the same building, and he's got all his PhDs with him, and he's 100% Black first. He completely gets what we're doing. And think about this. Think about all the brain power that you have. You literally have the smartest people on the planet working to solve problems for Black people. And I haven't even talked about Dr. Ken Harris and what he's doing with his massive network of hundreds of Black-owned businesses that are doing delegations to Africa. These are serious people. Dr. George C. Frazier, I mean, his book is required reading at every HBCU in America. Dr. Frazier is one of the GOATs of all time. These are the kinds of people that are there. I could keep going. I'm not going to keep going, but I just want to kind of mention this because this convention is going to be amazing. King Randall's 24 years old. He created a school with literally peanuts, and that school is educating Black boys better than any public school in the area. So really, so if you guys want to join us at the convention this year, feel free to go to allblacknationalconvention.com and take a look. I think you guys are going to love it. Bring your family. And I look forward to seeing you there. And so anyway, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. I hope you have a good night, and thank you so much for hanging out. We'll do this again next week, next Wednesday night at 8:30. And if you want to remain connected, say via text or where I send out the $5 a day investing plan and stuff like that to you, all you have to do is text the word stock to 31996. Text stock to 31996, and I'll send you some stuff there too. So we got plenty of free resources in the Black Business School that'll get you going and help you get where you want to get to. Doesn't matter what your budget is. If if the convention is out of the price range right now, that's okay. We've got other things for you. So we don't want you to think that money is a limitation. We have to raise money. We have to raise money because that's institution building requires money. But at the same time, it's okay. You don't need money to be here. We still got you. We still love you no matter what. Okay. All right. We just ask if you get a little bit of money that you'll add us into your budget as you spend money everywhere else, because we really are doing the work. We really are getting it done. We poured hundreds of thousands of dollars into Dr. Claude Anderson's Powernomics Corporation. We've given money to Black-owned schools. We've hired tons of Black people. We've done a lot of work in the community. So, and we're not going to stop. And I have to repeat some of that just so you guys know where this money's going. It's not going toward, a bunch of silly stuff. It's going toward actual institution building. So God bless you guys. Have a good night. And I will see you all soon. So take care. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.